Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles.
My name is Mark Tanner. I'm 32, and until recently, I was married. This is the story of how I became unmarried. I met Sophia Winston during my college years. She was a freshman, and I was a junior. We crossed paths in a political science class, a requirement I had put off until my final year. At the time, I was 22 and a former soldier. After serving a year and a half in the Army, I was medically discharged due to a training accident. While riding as a passenger in a helicopter, a ground loop threw me out of an open door. I ended up with 2 broken legs and a broken arm. A steel rod was placed in my left leg, and with that, my military career ended. Using my GI Bill and disability benefits, I enrolled in college. Sophia was 19 and as radiant as the first light of dawn. She stood just shy of 5 feet 8 inches and couldn't have weighed more than 125 pounds. Her green eyes were the brightest I'd ever seen, and her hair was the kind of golden blonde that seemed to catch the sunlight. When she walked into class and took the seat next to mine, she smiled warmly. After class, we walked out together. She introduced herself and asked if I had understood anything from the lecture. I joked that understanding wasn't required, only passing was, and she responded with a laugh, deep and hearty. She then asked if I had time for coffee. I agreed, and over coffee, we got to know each other better. She told me she wasn't dating anyone and that she was serious about her studies, with plans to become a paralegal. I found her intriguing and wanted to spend more time with her. Apparently, the feeling was mutual because when I invited her to dinner and a play the following Friday, she said yes. Our first date went well, and though we didn't become exclusive immediately, we continued dating regularly throughout her freshman year. However, as the end of the school year approached, I started noticing some tension. Occasionally, when I asked her out, she'd mention prior commitments. I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but I understood when someone was pulling away. I took her excuses and the shift in energy as a sign that our relationship was cooling off. I stopped asking her out and moved on with my life. I didn't see Sophia over the summer or at the start of the next school year. It wasn't until the second semester of my senior year that we crossed paths again. When I saw her, she looked heartbroken, as if she'd lost her best friend. I greeted her with a casual hi and asked how she was. Her response took me by surprise. With a sharp tone, Sophia asked, "Why do you even care? You haven't called in almost 9 months. Why not?" I explained as calmly as I could. "We weren't exclusive, and after a couple of times when you turned me down, saying you had plans, I figured I wasn't part of those plans." I respected that. I was irritated by her attitude, so I added, "I was ready to become exclusive, but you didn't seem interested. What was I supposed to do? Hang around and settle for leftovers?" I didn't push for more than goodnight kisses because I don't believe in going further without a commitment. Whether you believe me or not, you were the only person I dated after our first time together. She just stood there looking like she could spit nickels and shit dimes when I held up my hand and said, "If you would like to begin dating again, lose the attitude, and remember, my phone and email both work, and you never use them." With that, I went to my class and thought it was over. Sophia called a few days later on a Saturday. I was finishing a paper for one of my classes and let the call go to voicemail. When I was done, I listened to her message. "Mark, I was an idiot, but I was afraid that you wanted to get serious about us last year. I was also mad that you did not at least try to get in my panties. I thought you were either gay or not interested. Can we start over? I have a new cell number, so please call me. I missed you and I'm sorry I was so angry. Goodbye." I called her and explained that I would love to start over, but that I would not make any attempts to get in her pants unless we were exclusive. We dated for about 6 weeks and Sophia asked when I was going to ask to be exclusive. I said sharply, "Never. You are the one that will have to make that decision. I have only dated you since I met you. When you are ready to commit, I will give you my answer." That went over like a noisy fart in church. Sophia started crying and turned and ran away. I did not hear from her for a week. When she called me, she said, "I have thought about us, and while I am scared of this, I want to be with you and only you. If you want, I will commit." I just about dropped the phone and told her I was surprised but pleased. I then said, "Just so you understand, I want you, and I love you. I never said it before, because we were not exclusive. I want you forever, even longer if I can have it." I continued, "Sophia, I don't want you to be scared, and I don't want you angry, but I want you to know that if we make this commitment, it lasts until one of us says no longer. That means no other dates, no plans hidden, no sorry, I'm busy without an explanation. It also means no lies about our feelings. If you can agree to that, we are a couple. If not, please do not come back in my life." She agreed, and we dated until I graduated, and then I asked her to marry me. She said yes, and we started planning. I found a good job with the local office of a large corporation. I was a salesman. I met the rents, and to say that they were underwhelmed is a gross understatement. Sophia's mother was outright hostile, and her father did not even shake my hand when I offered. I was pissed. I said to Sophia, "I do not need this treatment. I never did anything to deserve this. You need to decide in about 15 seconds if you are going with me because I am out of here." Sophia looked like a deer in the headlights and did not follow when I left. I called a couple of days later and asked for my ring back. Sophia said if I gave her 10 minutes of my time, she would return the ring. I agreed. When she came over to my apartment, she looked like a bag lady. Her clothes were all wrinkled, her hair was a mess, and her eyes were very red. I was not charitable. I said, "The clock is ticking, say what you planned and give me the ring. I have my own problems to deal with, but I will not let your parents screw up my life." Sophia looked down at the floor and started to mumble. I stopped her. "The clock is still ticking. Your family hurt me, and now you can't speak plainly to me. Just give me the ring and leave me alone, please." Sophia then looked up and said, "You said you would give me 10 minutes. I am sorry I was mumbling, but I am hurt and also mad at my parents. I will write you an explanation because it will take more than 10 minutes to tell all. Here is your ring, and I want you to know that I would marry you with or without my parents' blessing." With that, she handed me the ring and left. About 2 days later, I got a letter in the mail from, of all people, Sophia's father. I opened it and was surprised that it was lengthy. It said, "Mr. Tanner, I want to apologize for my actions when you came to meet us. I can offer no valid excuse. I do want you to know why and what happened after you left." The why. Sophia's mother has always felt that she married beneath herself. She is a social climbing wannabe. I am surprised that she hasn't divorced me. Unfortunately, I love the bitch. Sophia's mother has had plans for Sophia to meet and marry one of the rich a-holes that hang around at the coffee shop that my wife works at. Sophia wanted nothing to do with that and said so many times my wife wanted Sophia to go to an Ivy League college. She even went so far as to forge applications to several of them. Sophia was accepted at all of the schools that got her applications. When Sophia found out, she was furious, and she said she would not go to any college that she had not personally applied to. She packed her bags and left the house. She had never come back until she brought you. The crap hit the fan when Sophia called and said she was bringing her fiancé to meet us. She had not even sent a Christmas card in almost 2 years. My wife was angry and said that if I said a nice word or gave a friendly gesture, she was leaving. Unfortunately, you saw the result. This letter is an apology for my lack of backbone. After you left, Sophia started crying and told her mother and me that we had seen the last of her for the rest of our lives. She then tried to catch you before you drove away. She was too late. She came into the house, went to her room, and came out about an hour later with all of the clothes that she had kept here. She called a taxi, and without a goodbye, loaded everything in the cab and left. Again, I am sorry for the treatment you received. Please don't blame Sophia. It was her mother and I that were to blame. Victor Winston. I put the letter down and sat in my chair for almost an hour trying to decide what to do when my phone rang. It was Sophia. Sophia meekly asked, "Did you get a letter from Daddy?" When I said I did, she asked if she could come over. I said yes. Sophia arrived about 20 minutes later. When she came in, she handed me 3 letters. 2 were opened and addressed to her. The third was addressed to me. She asked that I read the open ones and then the one to me. The first one I read was from her father, and it was very similar to the one I got from him, except that at the end he told Sophia that he had moved out and let his wife know that he was fed up with the manipulating bitch, and if she did not stop, he would never come back. The second letter was from her mother. The evil that she spouted was amazing. She blamed Sophia for running her father out of the house. She blamed Sophia's father for being too soft to see what was best for Sophia regardless of what Sophia wanted. Then she blamed the entire male sex for being evil and not worth the bother to hunt them down and kill them. I looked up from that piece of trash and saw Sophia softly sobbing on the chair across from me. She asked, "Please read the last letter." With shaking hands, I opened the letter addressed to me. As I suspected, it was from Sophia. It was short and to the point. It would not have taken 10 minutes to say, but I read it anyway. "Mark, I'm sorry that I hesitated when my family went off on you. I was embarrassed and surprised by their actions. When I was able to move, it was too late. You had already left. I don't blame you. I knew my mother was trying to marry me off to money. I also know that the blow-up was a long time coming, but I did not think she would ever act so nasty to someone besides family. I love you, and I want to marry you. If that means I have to abandon my mother, then I will. As it is, I have totally moved out of the house. When school is out, I will find an apartment near you and work for the rest of my life if necessary to show you how important you are to me. Please don't throw us away. I want to live with you for the rest of my life. Love, Sophia. I was speechless for a few seconds. When I was able to talk, I just said, yes. Sophia jumped off the chair and almost flew into my lap. She was crying, laughing, kissing, and babbling all at the same time. I waited for her to calm down, and by the time she did, she fell asleep. I carried her into my bedroom and covered her. I went into the kitchen and got a piece of paper and wrote yes on a note and left the engagement ring on it and went to get some food to bring back for both of us. When I got back, Sophia was awake and clutching the note in one hand and the ring in the other. She looked up and smiled. Then she surprised me by giving me the ring and saying, I screwed up and lost the right to put this back on my finger. Would you honor me by doing that for me? I was laughing so hard that I dropped the ring not once, but twice. I finally got it on her finger. We talked all of that day and well into the night. Sophia said she had to go because she was tired. I asked why she had to go. I had a spare bedroom, or she could share my bed. I said she could wear one of my t-shirts and a pair of my boxers to bed. I promised that I would not do anything that she did not want. She chose my bed, no clothes, and the next day she moved in. We never again slept in separate beds, except when one of us was out of town overnight. Until the confrontation from the wrong phone. We got married. Sophia's father gave her away. Her mother did not attend. We honeymooned in Niagara Falls, Canada, and stopped for a couple of days in Toronto. Life was good for over 2 years. We had been married for a little more than 2 years when Sophia wanted to start a family. I was ecstatic and said with a Groucho Marx eyebrow wiggle said, let's start now. Sophia raced me to the bedroom. We tried to get her pregnant for a few months and finally, Sophia went to her doctor to see if there was a problem. When I came home from work that evening, she was crying and holding the report. It seems that Sophia's womb was malformed and every fertilized egg that tried to attach could not. She would never have children. Our life was changed from then on. Sophia no longer seemed to enjoy making love. She stopped wanting to go to any social functions. I finally told her she needed to find a therapist, or I was going to move into the second bedroom. I told her she was no less a woman, nor a less desirable wife, lover, and friend. I said if she wanted, we could look into adoption. Sophia found a therapist. I got a promotion and we moved from the apartment to a rental house. I was still on an upward path at work and felt renting made more sense than buying then selling in 18 months or 2 years if I got promoted out of the office I was in. Life got better. Then the phone. I was running slightly late to get to work, and so I just grabbed my cell phone from the charger and left home. On the drive there, the phone made a strange tone and the screen said, new text message. I realized then that I grabbed my wife's phone. I did not read the message until I reached my office. I arrived at work, completed all of the start of the workday tasks, and then checked the phone in case the message from my wife was important. When I read the message, I knew my marriage was over. The message was from a neighbor and friend, Caleb Stein. It read, Hi sexy. Logan and I want to know if you will meet us in room 417 of the Holiday Inn this afternoon at about 2 o'clock. We are both blowing off work and want a lot of what we have been getting for this past year. You know that a-hole husband of yours doesn't turn you on as a DP sandwich does. Waiting to hear from you. Caleb. I was shocked and angry. I was angry at my so-called friend calling me an a-hole. I was angry finding out my wife was a cheating 304, and I was angry that I had no clue that both them had so little respect for marriage vows and for me. Caleb Stein and his wife Lila were the first friends we made when we moved into the neighborhood. He and she came by as we were moving in and offered to help. Lila became Sophia's friend and loyal sidekick. Logan Hamilton was an a-hole of the first order. He was my age, divorced 3 times for cheating, and always on the lookout for a new woman to conquer. I had warned him twice that if he hit on Sophia again that I would kick his butt. As the clueless husband, I thought that a little revenge was in order. First, I called an attorney that one of the guys in the office used to protect himself from his cheating and greedy wife. His office said they would call back. Second, as we were renting the house we lived in, and were on a month-to-month lease, I called the rental agency and gave them 60 days notice. I told them I would follow up with a written notice. Third, I forwarded the message to all the contacts in Sophia's phone directory. Of course, that included my phone, but surprisingly not Caleb's or Logan's. Fourth, I called Lila and asked for her cell number as I had a message that Caleb sent to Sophia that she should see. I also asked her to meet me at the Holiday Inn at about 1:30. I sent the message and she said she would meet me. Fifth, I responded to Caleb with a copy to my phone that my wife had that I would be there smiling and ready for some fun. Caleb just did not know what kind of fun. The lawyer called me back, and when I explained that I wanted a divorce, and I wanted to sue 2 men for adultery, or whatever was the current phrase for cheating scumsuckers. I gave him all of the information and the address to serve my wife. He asked what proof I had. When I told him of the text message, he wanted a copy, so I forwarded it to him. While I was talking to him, Sophia's phone indicated an incoming call. I asked the lawyer what else he needed, and when he was satisfied, I begged off. I checked the missed call log on the phone and saw that it was my phone, so I thought that Sophia was now worried. Good. I did not call her back and shut off the phone. I figured she would try to call Caleb or Logan, but if they didn't show, I would have further proof of her cheating. I took the rest of the day off and went to the hotel to wait. Lila showed up a little early, and we decided to go up to wait at the door of the hotel room. About 1:45, we heard the ping of the elevator. We went to it and stood in front of the door before it opened. When it opened, Caleb and Logan saw us and realized that the jig was up. Logan tried to close the elevator door, but my foot was stopping it. Lila stepped up and slapped Caleb and told him not to come home. I grabbed Logan and reminded him of the warning I had given him. I told him today was his lucky day because I would not do anything to him in front of witnesses, but now he needs to watch his back. I said, "Someday I will find you alone, without anyone around, and that day you will pay for this." I continued, "When I do find you, I will have an ironclad alibi, and you won't care, because it will mean nothing to a corpse." Logan just wilted. I released him and let him close the door. As I expected, I never heard from Logan again. Caleb, on the other hand, tried to blame Sophia, Logan, the neighborhood, the police, the local pastor, anyone but him. I shut him up and said, "Caleb, there is no one to blame but yourself. You knew Sophia was married. You knew you were married. You knew you were cheating. You went ahead and did it regardless of the consequences. Now you will reap those consequences. You have destroyed 2 marriages. If Lila takes you back, she will never trust you again. Sophia is going to find out that I will not take her back. You and Logan are also being named as correspondents in my divorce. You will also receive a notice that I am suing you for the damage you have done to me. I hope you can live with yourself." I left Caleb standing there with his head in his hands and headed for home for probably the last time. I drove around for an hour before I decided that it was time to face up to the problem. When I got home, the place was deathly quiet. Nothing seemed out of place, just quiet. I looked in all of the rooms and in our bedroom. I found Sophia had emptied all of the drawers that held her clothes and emptied the closets of them too. I had a stray thought. How did she move all this stuff without taking the car I bought her last month? I was actually relieved that I did not have to deal with the confrontation on this day. I sat down and tried to think of what else I needed to do. I realized that I still had Sophia's phone. I thought that Sophia probably still had mine. I sent a text message to my phone to ask her to call me. I pushed send and heard noise coming from the kitchen. I knew then that Sophia did not even take a phone. I felt that it was all over now. I sat there and thought of what was next and who I needed to tell about this. The first person I thought of was Victor. I had come to love that guy almost as much as my own father. Then, of course, I needed to call my family. Then I needed to let work know. It went on and on. There was just so much that I was exhausted just contemplating what I had to do. I must have fallen asleep in the chair because that evening I was jolted awake by the phone on the wall in the kitchen. Hoping it was Sophia, I ran to catch it before it went a message. It was Lila, not Sophia. She was asking if I would come over and keep her company for a couple of hours. I realized that she was going through much the same things I was, so I said I would be over. I realized I was hungry and asked Lila if I could bring some pizza or Chinese for us to eat. Lila said, "Yes, I'm hungry, but I would prefer Chinese." I hung up and called the local Chinese restaurant and got a couple of orders for taking out. I knocked on Lila's door about 40 minutes after her phone call. She looked like a wreck. Her eyes were red. What little makeup she normally wore was a mess. She had on a granny dress that went out of style before I was born. I got smart. I set the food down and grabbed Lila in a big and long hug. She said, "Thanks. I know you have the same problems I do, but it's nice to have someone who cares for me show it." We ate, and then went and sat on the sofa in her living room. We talked for probably 3 hours and Lila clung to me the whole time. She finally let go, said thanks, and said she was better now that she knew she hadn't lost a friend. She sort of snorted and said, "Look at me, I lost my husband, my supposed best friend, and I take comfort in a friend who didn't desert me. Thank you, Mark, for being that friend." I left and walked home. I had a troubled sleep, and when I went into work the next day, my boss told me I looked like death warmed over, and when I told him what happened, he said take some time off. I thanked him and went over to the lawyer's office to update him on Sophia's leaving. I also wrote a check for a retainer. The lawyer told me to protect my assets, lock up the bank accounts, cancel all joint credit cards, cancel the ATM card, etc. I went to the bank and moved all of our money from joint to single accounts. Sophia had not touched any of the accounts. The only credit card we had was through that bank, so I canceled that and opened a new account in my name only. I also removed all of the contents of our safe deposit box. I took Sophia's jewelry and set it aside but put all of the other contents in a new box. I made sure that short of a court order that no one but myself would have access to the box. That done, I went back to the house. I called Victor and he told me Sophia was there, but she did not want to talk to me yet. I told him I would send her jewelry to him. I also explained that if Sophia was going to stay with him, I would have my attorney send the divorce papers there. I told him that it was over, but if Sophia fought the divorce, I would just move and not let her know where I was. I did ask if she had told him why I was suing for a divorce. He said that Sophia told him that we had a major misunderstanding and that she knew the marriage was over. I snorted and told him, ask her about Logan and Caleb and about how she thinks Lila must feel right now. I told him that I considered him a friend and hoped that despite what was happening we could keep in touch. I also told him he should suggest to Sophia that she start seeing her therapist again, and that if she did, I would pay for it. He asked why I would do that if I wanted a divorce. I replied, I don't want a divorce. I need one. There is no trust left in this marriage. I love her more than my own life. If Sophia ever tells you about the real why, you will understand. The lawyer sent the divorce papers to Sophia at her father's apartment. She signed them but changed the proposed settlement to give me everything. That was the last communication we have had. Lila divorced Caleb and moved away. I moved before my 60 days were up. I found a condo near my office that was for rent. I haven't started back in the dating scene, but some of the females, not all of them unattached, in the condo building have been making subtle and not so subtle hints that they are there for me. I am not seeking, but I think it is going to be fun looking again. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.